Alright, so now we got all that stuff out, and this is the entire carrier ring gear with spider gear assembly. As you can see here, this is the factory setup, pretty standard. Basically, axle shafts will go into each end of this. Obviously, this is the ring gear. You know, you can see how they go to opposite sides when you spin one. That basically allows power to transfer to one wheel or the other. In this case, it's usually the one you don't need power transferred to, because it's usually the one with less traction. So that's why we're ditching all this crap. What we want to do is get the assembly out. So we'll take this cross pin and kick it on out of here. Usually a punch or something like that works fine. We've already removed the roll pin that retains it. So we'll take and just hit that sucker onto the other side. Still fighting a bit. There. Now, this is your cross pin. That's what kind of holds the whole assembly together. This thing fails, everything fails. The Aussie and the Lokka retain the original. I've not really had any issues with this, unless you can notice. Sometimes you'll notice actual wear on these. This one looks fine, so that's whatever. Now to get these out, you'll just kind of take and rotate this assembly around at this point to where you can see how now the axle gears are coming out this way, or the spider gears rather. You'll pull one of those out. Same thing on the other side. And then you'll just remove the axle gears, and just like that. Bubby, what do you want? Here. And also, if you'll notice, whenever you pull these axle gears, they have these very thin little washers that are on the back side of them. You'll want to retain these as you'll reuse them for the locker install. Some apparently don't need that. Every time I've set one and had one come out within spec on the center gap, these were utilized on both sides. So hang on to those and separate that from the rest. And just like that, we've got ourselves an empty carrier. As you can see in there, there is nothing in there. It's completely gutted. So with that in mind, we can actually now go ahead and start doing the locker install stuff. This is one side of it. I want you to kind of make sure that as far as orientation goes, you want to make sure that this sort of more closed off end is towards the center of the locker. And basically what you're doing by that is it's allowing your axle shaft room to kind of come into it, as you can see right there. But you know, if you had it flipped the other way, you would come up short before you could bolt your shafts on. So keep that in mind on both sides. Other than that, I use just any kind of basic old red grease to kind of hold these parts together a little bit for me. It makes it easier on the install. So I'll probably time lapse this. It takes a little fidgeting. All these come with instructions for the individual stuff, but just a couple things like that I wanted you to be aware of. Of course, there's pins and springs. All that's kind of detailed there, but I'll go ahead and run it on time lapse, and we'll hopefully get this together. Sorry, been hitting the paps. Also, worth noting, if you remember those little thin washers from just a bit ago that came off the axle gears, they will actually attach onto these I believe these are cam gear pieces. You'll see that they're splined. They'll go on the back side of this to kind of close up that center gap. So be aware of that. Get up to this point, you've got these springs to deal with here. They have to go up in this crap. This pin will push back up into the pocket, just like that. Spring has to go here. Pretty much got it. But the pin has a little tit on the end of it that holds the spring. And there we are. Do that 4 times. Assembly is finished. One last thing to check before I throw it back out in the Jeep is the spacing in between the intercam deal right here. It gives you a range of 0.145 to 0.165 inches, which I have checked on this one. This particular set on the feeler gauges is measuring out to 0.147, and it does fit, as you can see there. The next step up on that, adding this particular piece here, bumps it up to 0.164, which is still within range, just on the sloppy end of it, and it does not fit. So it is on the tighter end of that gap. So we're good. Well, it got dark on me, and I am doing this shit in my driveway, FYI. So it is very doable. But it's back in here. Just a couple things to note whenever you do. Again, make sure these bearing caps are back on the same way they were. And kind of go easy on them. Don't crank down one bolt at a time. That's pretty obvious. When you get it up there and get the caps back on and set it in place, I just kind of sink them down until I start feeling the teeth grabbing the pinion on the ring gear here. And then just kind of do a sort of star pattern, just a little at a time until everything gets seated back in the way it needs to be, and then torque them down. And that should be good after that. So I'm gonna get this button back up. 2 quarts of I use 80-90 weight gear oil. You can use, we used 85-140 before. Not notice the difference between either one, but get this top back off. Good way to tell at the fuel plug hole up here. Just take it off, stick your finger in there, do just that first little index or that first joint. If you can touch gear oil with the tip of your finger here, that's typically about where it needs to be. Kind of old school way of measurement, but it works. Alright guys, it's getting late. I got everything all wrapped up and finished, and reinstalled and everything back together, ready for work tomorrow morning. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I'll be doing some more stuff like this, but if you like what you see, just subscribe or don't. You know, it's on you. Get to the tacky.